Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
If I wasn't all you wanted, if I wasn't even close, only hope that I made you smile, maybe more than once in a while.
Season 6, Episode 12. Thanks for joining. I'm Mike Wilner.
And I'm Liz Wolfe.
And today, Liz gets to interview Brooke Aldridge. So, Liz, you collected another set.
I did. I got Darin, and now I've got Brooke. And what a joy it was to speak to her. She's so committed to the music. And I love singing with her, even if it's only in my own headphones.
Yes, she's a fascinating figure. Can't wait to hear the interview. Also, our big news, Bluegrass Brooklyn has been named podcast in residence for the Earl Scruggs Music Festival. So, Liz, what have you got going on?
I continue my exciting and very full summer of bluegrass. Just got back from the AFBA Wind Gap Festival. I'm headed out to Podunk Festival in Goshen, Connecticut, followed immediately by the Ashokan Bluegrass Camp. And meanwhile, people are signing up for the Warnick Method Camp that I'm doing in Warwick, New York, which is happening September 25th through 27th. So some people have been thinking, yeah, that was so far away from now. But guess what? It's not that far away anymore. Yeah. So if you're thinking about coming, sign up. Mike's going to be there.
I will. It's coming up quick. And that is so much fun. It's a very comfortable venue. And it's in the middle of a beautiful campus. And it's just such a chill and enjoyable event. And I'm hoping to meet some of our listeners while we're there. For myself, I will be headed also to Ashokan, but I'll be going to the Southern Week, where I'll be jamming and learning from our friends in Southwest Louisiana who are coming up to teach and play, but gearing up more for our residency at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, which is September 4th through 6th in North Carolina. But we'll talk more about that after the interview with Brooke.
Please remember to follow, like, and subscribe to our podcast, and please share it with others. The more listeners we have, the more we get to spread the love of bluegrass. Of course, you can find us online at bluegrassbrooklyn.com, Brooklyn spelled BKLYN. Reach out to Mike at bluegrassbrooklyn.com, and you can always find me and all my jams online at bluegrassjamsnearme.com.
Okay, Liz, anything else?
No, let's get to the interview.
Yeah, let's roll.
If I wasn't even close, only hope that I made you smile, maybe more than once in.
Well, hello and welcome. I am so excited to have completed my Brooke and Darin Aldridge set with my interview today with Brooke Aldridge. If you don't know about her, you should. She's an amazing singer, which I think is one reason I love her so much. She's a songwriter. And as I said, she's part of that Brooke and Darin Aldridge duo. So welcome, Brooke.
Hi, Liz. It's so great to be on finally. I'm glad it worked out.
Well, Brooke and Darin are very busy. One of the things that they're busy doing is they are going to be at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, which is Labor Day weekend down in North Carolina.
We've actually been a part of the festival since it started, and we've gotten to do sets on the different stages. They have a couple different stages there, but we have kind of, I guess, became regulars doing their Sunday morning gospel show there, kind of like Doc used to do at Merle Fest. So it's pretty cool that we get to host that segment of the weekend.
Oh, you are the ones that are most qualified to do that of anyone. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Well, certainly part of the reason why we wanted to have you on is to let people know about the Earl Scruggs Music Festival. So for anybody listening that's planning on going, expect to go to that Sunday morning gospel session. So I started listening to you by accident. I had, my Apple Music was just feeding me stuff. And I was like, these are wonderful harmonies. I'm also a singer, so I love listening to the harmonies. And you know how sometimes it'll come up in your ear and you'll check and you'll see who it is. And I have put Oh God, I don't know which ones they are necessarily, but 5 or 6 of your songs with Darin in my favorites list. And I'm going to jump right in with my favorite one to ask you a little bit about it, which is that song, He's Already There.
Yes, so that is a wonderful song. It was pitched to us by a song publisher there in Nashville, and it was written by Bernie Nelson and Karen White. And the first time I heard the lyric to it, I was like, wow. I was like, I really love that. Just thinking about how we might dread a day in our lives just because of something that we don't want to have to face. But, God's already there. He's got it planned out exactly how it's going to be. And we shouldn't stress about it because in the end, it's going to be okay. It might be stressful in that moment, but eventually, just like all things do, I feel like things always eventually get better. And that's how that song spoke to us. And we wanted it to speak to the audience that heard it. And I think it's done just that.
Yeah. And what I love about that song in particular, first of all, can we just talk about the harmonies that are just so amazing in it? Like, you don't even need to hear the words. And I'll play a little bit of the song for this in this portion so people can hear it. But the harmonies are so incredible and so impeccable. The two of you just have these impeccable harmonies.
There's never been a day that I went hungry. Never had a night I had no place to sleep. Never had a prayer that went unanswered. You might be wondering how that could be. I'm right here living in the moment. To tell the truth, I just don't really care all that much about tomorrow, 'cause I know he's already there. There's a greater plan for me, bigger dreams than I could ever dream. It says be still and know I'm everywhere. And as for tomorrow, well, I'm already there. I was troubled, I used to wonder how it was that I get by. But who am I?
I think no matter who you are in the world or what you believe, because obviously people have so many different beliefs around
Sure.
around any reason for the world existing and how we are in it. It's just such a wonderful song about surrender and
Yes.
not allowing those worries to get in your way. And yeah, so I really wanted to hear your reflection on how that might be meaningful to you personally.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. It doesn't matter what background you come from as far as your faith goes, because I think this song speaks to people on so many different levels. And I think a good song always does that, no matter if it's a gospel song or a bluegrass song and country song. There's always going to be some way that it speaks to somebody when you least expect it to, I think.
Yeah, and I've noticed also that a lot of your songs obviously have a Christian theme to them or that gospel theme, but you also have a lot of songs that are really bringing forth the idea of love and relationship. So those are some of my other songs. So do you look for a particular theme in a song? What speaks to you the most?
We will typically look for themes, sometimes just based on the type of album that we want to put out. We try to go back and listen to the older albums that we've put out in the past. Sometimes I think a song might just jump out at us because of the way it speaks to us when we first hear it. And it's important to have that kind of emotion and feeling when you hear a song for the first time, because that's exactly how you want it to move across your audiences. And I think we've done a good job picking out songs like that. And they're not always, everything we do is not gospel related, but we definitely try to pick a positive and uplifting message most of the time, because we feel like there's so much negativity in this world. And I feel like it's definitely needed this day and time to be a bright light and a positive influence in people's lives, because they, you turn the news on and it's just all so negative. Or in the job that I have, I work at an attorney's office through the week, and people coming in, they're just dealing with so many hardships in their life at that time. And I see both sides of it. I see the negative side of things, and then I see them come in after things have been settled and figured out in their lives, and they're just so much happier. And I think music is a lot like that too, in the way it speaks to people. So we do look for themed songs sometimes, but sometimes it just is by chance that we get a song that's like, wow, I needed to hear that today, and I think somebody else would too if we recorded it.
Do you ever have anybody come in the attorney's office and say, Brooke Aldridge, I listen to you all the time?
All the time, yeah. So this is pretty close to home. It's about 15 minutes from Cherryville, where Darin and I live, and the attorney's office is in Shelby, North Carolina. So yeah, I'm kind of a hometown girl around here. So when they come in, they'll see me first off, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" So it's pretty fun to get to be that person at the front when they come in.
That's great. Well, how do you balance this work that you're doing, this attorney's office, and the touring and the devotion and commitment you have to your musical career as well?
Well, it's funny you ask. I just have really good bosses who love bluegrass music and music in general. And so they've always been supportive of Darin and I. And so the last job that I had, I was working for Partnership for Children, and then I worked in the school system for about 10 years as a teacher. So it's pretty cool. I've had great bosses down through the years who really support and love what we do, and they've just been gracious enough to let me off when I need time off for my music, because they're happy to see that we're successful in that. And that I always tell them going in, this is where my heart is. So just you'll have to bear with me. And everybody so far has been great.
Well, I guess it is helpful if they do like bluegrass, because if they don't like bluegrass, they're going to be like, what's that? Right?
Exactly.
So they're probably just as excited. Did they come out and watch you perform?
Oh, yeah. I get a lot of support from my coworkers and my bosses. There's 8 attorneys that I work for. So they've all came to a show at one point or another. And one, even he wants to be a songwriter someday. So I told him when he retires, which he's not far from that, I think he has a good future in that too. So
wow. Would you ever play one of his songs?
I would actually. And he wrote one last year around Christmas time, which I think could be a song for the whole year through. But he's wanting us to cut it pretty bad. And he's got it demoed up and everything. So sometime we might cut that.
So what's Darin doing when you're in the attorney's office?
Well, he teaches music through the week. He's taught private lessons for years. And when we first started dating each other, he had probably about 60 students. And that's dwindled down over the years, because he doesn't want that many students now, because he keeps up with our music business so much. So he doesn't have time to juggle all of that in a day or a week. He teaches about 2 days a week. And then the rest of the time he's booking and doing all kinds of stuff for us and our music.
Yeah, that's great. You always need that partnership where one of you is taking care of one part, the other one's taking care of another part.
Exactly.
So I did hear a little bit of the story from Darin about how you met. Somebody said to him, you should hear this woman, Brooke, sing. And he did. And then you sort of hit it off after that. I want to hear your perspective on the story. How did it go down?
Well, it's funny you ask. So years prior to Darin and I meeting in person, him and I were both in relationships already. But I had reached out to him just asking him some questions about being a professional musician, because I wanted to seek that out as I got older. I was in a band at the time, but I knew that they all had day jobs and they weren't really looking to be musicians on the road all the time. So I reached out to Darin and asked him some questions, and then he got back with me on some stuff. But even prior to that, let me go back here. Our families had introduced us to each other, but not really in person. They had just kind of talked about each other around the other person. So I grew up in a little small town in Avery County, North Carolina, where his mom and dad were both raised. And so every time that his family would see me out somewhere, they would tell me about Darin. Or if he saw my family when he was up there visiting his family, they would tell him about me. So I think eventually it was just meant to be that we would meet. And then fast forward that back to where I was to begin with, we started just emailing back and forth. And then he asked me out on a date one time, and I was seeing somebody at the time. And I said, I think it's not a good idea right now to meet up. So later on, he came to fill in for a band that I was in. And it was funny when I walked in that day in the church service, because we were playing a church service, and I walked in and I thought, why is Darin Aldridge here? And then somehow during that time, we were sitting on the pews there. The whole band had gotten separated from just me. And then it was just Darin and I sitting beside each other. And the preacher told us to hold hands while we prayed. And I was like, I don't want to hold this guy's hand. I hardly know him. But in that moment, we just hit it off that day and became good friends. And we still talk about that minute that we had to hold hands. And I guess God just had a different plan than we did for ourselves. But we went out a couple times after that and then just became really good friends, realized we had the same goals and ambitions. And the rest is history for Darin and Brooke. So
Wow, that's great. I mean, that's a lot to manage, a relationship and a band and working together, because you have to manage your day-to-day relationship as well as your professional relationship. So how does that work for you two?
well, I think it's good that I have a different job during the day and we're not together 24/7 trying to do the same thing. But when we are together doing the same thing with our music, I think it just works out nicely because there are things that Darin is better at on that side of things than I am, like the business side of things. I don't love dealing with the business side of things and booking stuff, but I'm good at promoting and doing our social media stuff. So I think that's where we complement each other and come hand to hand on a lot of things because where he's weak, I'm better in things, and where I'm weak, he's better in things. So
Great.
it makes sense.
I know there's a lot of people out there that would no sooner work with their spouse than anything, right? So
Yeah.
how do you two come to work together musically? Do you sometimes have different ideas about what song would be good or how to approach doing a song?
Absolutely. I'm a stickler for a set list sometimes, but I think Darin is really good at reading the audience and getting a feel for what they seem to be liking when we're in a set in the moment. But as far as a set list goes, Darin's really good at arranging that too because he knows the keys to the songs and what he feels will flow the best in a set. And as to where I would just want to do slow, fast, just mix it up or something more. If it's a song that I feel like is more sentimental, saved it till towards the end of the set, or maybe start the set out with it. I don't know. Sometimes we don't always see eye to eye, but I've learned that he's been doing it a little bit longer than I have. And I guess he's been in a lot more bands and been in front of a lot of more audiences than I have. So he does have a little bit better idea when it comes to that sometimes. And so far, he's not steered me wrong. So I can't really call him out on it most of the time. But yeah, he's good about listening to songs that I want to do if I want to throw one in here. Or if he makes the set list and we're in the middle of it and I look down and see what song's coming next and I'm thinking, I'm not feeling this right now. Let me wait till the end of the set, towards the end to do this. Then he's good about rearranging the set to meet my needs.
So that would mean that you have to know songs that maybe aren't on the song list, maybe that you haven't rehearsed as recently, or I don't know. I think so many people have the same issue, which is I can't remember the words.
Sure.
How do you remember all those words and keep it all there?
A lot of people ask me that. I've just always had a really natural knack for that. Like my parents realized early on when I started singing more and showing more interest in music that I could remember the words to songs very easily. And thank goodness as I've gotten older, that has stuck with me still. It's very rare that I forget the words before we sing a song and I'm just like, I can't do this right now. Or if we're in the middle of the song and I'm blanking out while somebody's taking a break and I'm in my head, I'm trying to think, what's the words? What's this next verse? And somehow, I don't know, when I go to sing it, they just come. And so then I'm just like, thank you in that moment. But it happens and it's easy for those words to slip your mind. But I have no explanation for it, to be honest. And it's not like I sit and listen to our records all the time just to keep those songs fresh in my head. But I'm just grateful that so far it's been a good thing that I don't forget them.
Well, I'm guessing rehearsal does have something to do with that. Pete Wernick once said the difference between an amateur and a professional, the amateur practices until they get it right, and a professional practices until they can't get it wrong.
Well, that's good advice. Yeah, that's
I
true.
that was really good.
But sometimes you can practice the song so many times, I think, that you psych yourself out and then you'll forget the words still. So it's tricky.
Do you ever listen to your own albums just for fun to listen to them?
I do. Especially when they first come out, I listen a lot because I want to make sure that I'm singing the songs the way we recorded them, and maybe not down to a T. Like it doesn't have to be exactly like we recorded it, but I like to know how I did stuff on an album and for a certain song, just to kind of keep that feeling. Because if people get the album at a festival or at a venue, I want them to feel like they've just heard it live, just like they heard it on the record. So
Yeah.
I try to be mindful of that.
And do you ever just like you're playing the radio or the on your Spotify list or whatever, and a song of yours just comes on unexpectedly?
Yeah, often actually. And when that happens, it excites me because usually it's a song that we don't always do in our sets or we've not done in a long time. And I'm like, ooh, we need to go back over that one and throw that back in because
So fun.
it's such a good tune. Yeah.
I remember reading about John Denver that he was driving down the road the first time that he heard himself being played on the radio. And he said he had to pull over because it was so emotional
Oh,
for him
I'm
to
sure.
hear that. And of course,
Yeah,
that's way more random, right? Because on the radio in the old days, for all you young folks listening, you just had to wait for them to play a song that you wanted to hear. And
that's
that
right.
would be pretty wild if you were just driving down the road and you're John Denver and they play whatever the song was. I don't know what it was. So I think about that sometimes. That's fun. And how much time do you get, I don't know, at a festival to go and play with folks and jam or just sing and be almost anonymous out there on the grounds? Do you do that?
We do try to do that. It's rare that we get to do it as much as we'd like, but if we have time between sets, if we play two sets at a festival, there's usually more time to allow for that kind of thing. But usually I feel like these days it's just usually one set and we're getting there and we're unloading and we're trying to get everything set up. And we'll see people in passing or right before their sets when we're gearing up to get ready for our set. So sometimes it works out, but sometimes it doesn't. But we love to go out and just meet people, like if they're camping or whatever, we love to go out and see all the different jams going on and maybe even join in on a harmony part or sing a song or something and play a little bit of our music with them. And it really brings a lot of happiness to them. And so we're all about that when we get the chance.
I want to know a little bit more about, as long as we're on the topic of festivals, Earl Scruggs Music Festival. I've never been there. What would you say the flavor of the festival is since you've been there a few times?
Oh, it's an awesome festival. There's always such good vibes there. The festival grounds where they have it is at the Tryon Equestrian Center, and there's so many great restaurants. They usually have some of the equestrian shows, like between music sets, I guess you could go catch a horse show or something, or you always see somebody on a horse there, or, can go to the stables and they have horses there most of the time. Because I think some of the riders stay there maybe 6 months at a time out of the year for stuff. So, but it's just, there's such good vibes going on for sure. It's usually a little warm, so make sure that you you dress in clothes that you're not going to be burning up in, but they have facilities that can accommodate people to cool off. And like I said, you can go in a restaurant. It's just, I can't describe it. You just have to go, have to check it out to know. But yeah, the music there, they always have great lineup of bands. So if you've never been, you definitely need to experience it.
Yes. Well, Mike will be doing that this year. Tell me a little bit about your future aspirations.
Well, some things that we would like to do in our music would definitely be to play. I would love to do Red Rocks Amphitheater sometime. I would also love to be nominated for a Grammy someday. We've been in the running a couple times, but to make it in that top 5 category would be really cool. And then, of course, maybe someday even getting to be inducted as members of the Grand Ole Opry is a big dream of ours. So we're going to keep working at all those things. And we never imagined we would get to step onto the Opry stage even once. So it's pretty cool to think we've done it around 60 times now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get on the opera stage? Just in case I have that in my future aspirations as well.
Yeah, well, just networking, getting to know people. I feel like getting to play with Jimmy Fortune and John Cowan down through the years and collaborating with them because they've been on the Opry multiple times throughout their careers. And I feel like they put in a good word for us. So I think if you've got somebody in your corner cheering for you like that, you have a little bit better chance. But I don't know that there's any particular way that it happens, but that's kind of how I feel like in our experience that it happened for us.
Well, that's the New York joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice,
Yeah,
practice, practice. It's
that's
probably
right.
the same. It's probably for sure. And do you play a musical instrument as well as sing?
So what I do is I chop the mandolin. I don't chop chords. I should. I should have definitely invested more time into picking the instrument a little bit more. I think a lot of traditional bluegrass folk kind of get mad at me for that, but it's something that's more like a snare drum sound that I'm doing. And I tell you, I make fun of myself all the time because I don't pick a break or anything. And people are probably sitting there wondering why I'm not. But the chop is also necessary though. And I think when it's not there, the band really misses it. And I've gotten pretty good at it. So I guess I'm really supposed to be a drummer maybe, but the mandolin works just fine in bluegrass music.
Yes.
And I play a little bit of guitar too. So if you see a set of ours, sometimes I'll play guitar on a song and Darin might switch up to mandolin or guitar.
And you're usually singing the lead and he's doing the harmony.
Yes, most of the time. We try to change it up in our sets, and the majority of the lead I do, but we'll do some duet stuff, of course. And then there's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 songs that he'll do lead on, and I'll join in on harmony with him. It's fun to keep it like that too. And we do have some quartet stuff we do with the band that we have now, which is really cool. It's good to change it up and bring that different aspect to the whole set in general.
What is the earliest recollection you have of singing?
Probably in church with my mom and sisters. They're very good singers, but they're very shy about it.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then going to my mama and papa's house on Sunday afternoons after church. Really, my whole family, I come from a good long line of singers, and they they just enjoyed mostly sitting around and singing back in the day. And of course, I had a really good church where I grew up too that had a really good choir, just a little country church. But I feel like everybody there could sing too. Even now, when I go back home, there's still so many great singers in my church. And they, of course, always want to ask me to get up and sing a song. But I just enjoy being there to get to hear them because I don't get to do that very often. So, really, I think a lot of it came from my family and my church family.
And do you have a tip that you would give to somebody listening that says, yeah, but I'm not that musical or I can't sing that well?
Well, it's kind of hard. You've got to have a little bit of it in your blood, I think, and the love for it, of course, because not everybody wants to be a singer, obviously, or a musician. But I think if you are interested and you have a love for it, just definitely trying to get into lessons with somebody local that can guide you and help you. Or these days, there's so many things you see on social media that you can take vocal lessons just or vocal tips, I guess, from I see a lot of stuff on Instagram where people are teaching people to sing. So there's stuff out there that you can find. YouTube is a great resource as well to help you learn technique if you're interested in playing or singing.
And do you teach?
I don't teach. I've had several people reach out through the years about doing vocal lessons, but I was never professionally trained by a vocal coach or anything like that. Like I said, I just grew up singing in church and with my family, and I would listen a lot to the radio and to people that I loved and try to mimic what they were doing, just like you would if you were playing an instrument. You know, if you love Sam Bush, you're going to try to mimic a lick that he does. And it's really no different, I think, with your voice and singing. If there's something you like, I used to listen to a lot of Whitney Houston and Celine Dion. Not that I can sing those songs like they can, but just doing the little thrills and trills in your voice. And over time, if you do that enough, I feel like you can create your own technique to what they're doing. Yeah.
What does it feel like to know that there's little girls out there doing that with you right now?
Oh, it's awesome. Like I have a little niece who actually does try to do that, but I get emails and comments from people all the time from parents telling me how much their kids love our music and how they love my singing. And it's a great feeling just because you want to be an inspiration to the younger generation. And I feel like we've definitely done a good job of that. So,
yeah. So one of the themes I have on this podcast is women in bluegrass, because I know that there are specific challenges that women face in bluegrass that men don't, just because there's a lot more of them out there.
Sure.
Are there any specific challenges that you've encountered in your musical career you think that relates to that?
You know, I get this question often, and I don't know. I don't feel like I get that as much because Darin is usually with me most of the time, or he's not very far at a festival. Like if things do kind of get awkward with people in situations like it can with women, but I don't feel like I've really ran into a lot of that. And maybe not dealing with the promotional side of things, like as far as like booking and things like that. I haven't ran into that with promoters or anything like that either. So I'm very grateful for that. And there could come a time when I do have to deal with something like that. But so far, I'm just happy to say that I haven't had to deal with it.
Well, I think my assertion would be too that like when you're on the road, obviously you're able to be with Darin, the hotel situation is a lot easier, right? It's not like we have had some other guests on who have described, and there's 4 guys and 1 girl in the band, and she's got to have her own hotel room because you can't bunk up with those folks. So I think it seems like if you would agree that those types of things might be a little bit easier, more family band focused.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'm grateful for that I haven't had to run into those kinds of things. But I'm always happy to hear success stories of women traveling who have a guy in the band that they are able to figure out how to make those accommodations work. But yeah, it can be tricky.
And so do you have any specific women in bluegrass that you admire or you've been inspired by?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely love Alison Krauss. Who doesn't love Alison?
Yeah.
Definitely love Becky Buller. She's been a huge inspiration. She was with our band for a time being, and I just always admired her wittiness and fun on the stage. Of course, I love the Isaacs. I've always loved their music and the way they sing and just the way they compose themselves out on the road. And as a family band, I think they've done really well for themselves. But gosh, I could go on for days. Laurie Lewis, I'm a huge fan of. Louisa Branscombe for songwriters. There's just so many people. Clara Lynch and Dylan Bradley and Rhonda, of course. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I'm grateful that I've gotten to know these women down through the years, and to be able to call them friends is really special.
Yeah. In your performance history, who was somebody that you played with that was very exciting to play with?
I would definitely have to say Emmylou Harris. And that actually happened at the Scruggs Festival just a few years ago when she was there. She closed out the evening set on Sunday. And then Jerry Douglas got this big jam session up together for all of the artists that were on the set for that day to come up and do like a closing set. And so to stand there beside of Emmylou Harris, who's a huge inspiration of mine, and just know I'm singing right beside of her, that I can't explain the feeling, but it was really special. And she was so sweet backstage. And Darin and I were standing in a little huddle of women and going over a song. And Emmylou just happened to walk up and start singing with us too. So we hadn't planned that. I mean, when you get to meet your musical heroes like that and sing with them, it's a moment you don't ever forget.
Yes, I think I would have that same experience if Emmylou Harris came up to me. But I imagine that that's true for people that are coming around to you, that you might be walking up to and singing with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we get to experience those moments a lot. And it's so fun to see them just like, I guess, starstruck in a sense, because they can't believe they're getting to sing with somebody they've admired and heard on the radio for years and grew up listening to. So it's crazy to think that I'm getting into that age category now where people say that, but I'm honored as well.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I love, both that I've learned in doing this podcast and also just being in the bluegrass world, is how accessible people are, and how, I mean, I think, let's face it, none of us are Whitney Houston, right? Like
No.
I wish bluegrass was that big, but for the most part, it's not. And of course, people like Molly Tuttle and Billy Strings and Alison Krauss, you might put closer up in that strata
Tier.
that tier,
Sure.
right? But there's tears and then there's tears. And I think that we can be inspired by every woman that's out there doing it. You could have thought many years ago, yeah, I'll just hang out and work in this attorney's office and just sing on the weekends at church or whatever. But you really obviously put a lot of heart into it. And thankfully for the rest of us, because we get to hear your beautiful voice and your harmonies with Darin, of course, too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that we've stuck with it. I've always said the music industry is not for the faint of heart if you really have a passion and love for it, because it's hard. And it's hard to get your music out there, to get people to play it, to get promoters to book you, and to just get to the level that you feel like you want to be at. But I'm thankful that through these years of hard work and tears, we have reached a place where we're very happy, and hopefully we'll continue to climb, not for the fame aspect of it, but just to bring people happiness through our music. There's no better feeling than that, to know that you've touched somebody with a song that you've sung and uplifted them maybe in a difficult time in their life. So it's well worth it when you get to see those moments.
Yeah, and it's well worth it for us. And we're very grateful that you put that effort in as well.
Thank you.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, which I could probably keep going on for a long time, but I know you've got other commitments to go to, and I'm sure the listeners will love to have you back another time, and maybe
absolutely
catch Mike a little bit at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival. Tell him to go to your set. If anyone's listening and going to that, please make sure you will not be disappointed by the beautiful music that this incredible couple is generating.
Thank you so much, Liz.
So let's get to the big news we have. The headline is, our podcast has been named Podcast in Residence for the Earl Scruggs Music Festival in Mill Creek, North Carolina, September 4th through 6th. Really exciting, Liz.
Super exciting. I'm really loving that we are part of these festivals. We're getting to meet so many amazing artists.
Yeah.
And just feels like our community is expanding through the exposure through these festivals.
I agree. We get to talk to the artists and highlight a few of them on the show. So we've been publishing episodes with headliners from the Earl Scruggs Music Festival. I'll be there. I'll have the booth set up and be interviewing people. And we're talking about having some hosted jams and maybe even some panel discussions. And as you pointed out, we're participating and contributing to the festival. We become part of the festival as opposed to just some guy or gal running around with a microphone, which I think is very exciting. The other thing about the Earl Scruggs Music Festival that's special is it's associated with the Earl Scruggs Museum, which is nearby in Shelby, North Carolina. And it's all near where Earl grew up. And they're doing all kinds of amazing stuff at the museum. They're restoring the Scruggs home place and making that a destination where people who love the music and love Earl particularly can go and learn a lot more about him and how he grew up and what went on in his life. The festival is co-produced by the Earl Scruggs Center, and the center runs the museum as well. The other partner with the festival is Planning Stages, our friends from Gray Fox. I had a very smooth and well-organized experience at Gray Fox, largely due to the organizational efforts of Planning Stages. Claire Armbruster there really runs a great event. So I know, Liz, you hosted some jams and were all over the place. I think you had a similar experience.
We all knew that it took tremendous organization to get these festivals going. What always shines through for me is the incredible commitment that people have to the excellence, quality of these festivals, and that they keep going. Having a Earl Scruggs Museum, his home place, these are all the ways that we're really keeping the core of the bluegrass vibe and history and joy alive.
Yeah, there's also organizations that are involved with the festival. One is the Junior Appalachian Musicians, or JAM, J-A-M, which is, as it sounds, introducing kids and bringing them to the music. There's Restring Appalachia, which has been an ongoing effort to help replace instruments that were destroyed in the recent natural disasters in the mountains of western North Carolina and the other areas of Appalachia. all of that makes the sum of the parts greater than the whole in my mind. There's the festival, the museum, the center, the organizations. There's us. We're not part of that, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, that is fun.
So let me just give the listeners the logistics. It's September 4th through 6th in Mill Spring, North Carolina, which is about a 2-hour drive west of Charlotte and the lovely foothills of the Appalachian Mountains there. Tickets are still available. If you're down there, check us out. We'll have our podcast booth set up. We'll be at the various events, and I'll be the tall guy with the hat and the fiddle. If you're wondering who I am, and that probably describes about 2/3 of the people who are going to be at the festival. But
Definitely the hat and the fiddle part.
we're looking forward to the residency. We're looking forward to meeting our listeners down there and listening to some great music. Del McCoury is going to be there. The Avnet Brothers are the artists in residence. Some of my favorite bands like Mountain Grass Unit are going to be there. The Biscuit Eaters, who we recently had an episode on. Jerry Douglas will be there with the Earl Sylvester. It's just a great time.
So definitely let us know if you're going to be down there. And of course, don't forget to go see Brooke on Sunday morning as well.
Okay, thanks for listening. See you in North Carolina.
Maybe more than once in a while.
Liz, great interview with Brooke. It's really interesting to hear the full story of the Darin and Brooke Aldridge band. Thank you for bringing it to the show.
Yeah, I really want to encourage people to look them up and listen. If you want to learn about harmonies, it's a really great duo to sing along with. I really want to thank her for coming on.
Please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Visit bluegrassbrooklyn.com. You can drop a line, mike@bluegrassbrooklyn.com. If you have any ideas or just want to say hi, we promise we'll respond. Reach Liz at bluegrassjamsnearme.com, and check out bluegrassjamsnearme.com if you're looking for jams in Uptown Manhattan, Bronx, Riverdale, New Jersey, and increasingly around the country and world. And we appreciate when you like and subscribe and recommend our podcast to your friends so we can spread the love of bluegrass around the world. Liz, anything else?
No, thank you so much for listening.
And we look forward to seeing you around the Jam Circle. We'd like to thank our sponsors. We learn and grow with Peghead Nation's online courses and world-class instructors. We're powered by Ear Trumpet Labs microphones. That's why we sound so good.